Hello, I'm in Copenhagen for our Europe rendezvous. Denmark used to be thought of as a Eurosceptic country, but it's now very much at the heart of the EU. And during its rotating EU presidency, it's been leading the European conversation on critical issues of defence and security. Migration has also been an important theme of this EU presidency, and there's a Danish exception. Both the left and the right in this country of 6 million people take a hard line on asylum seekers. We're going to ask why. But first, let's focus on defense and security. Drone incursions attributed to Russia have been a real wake-up call to Danes.
Drone observations around Copenhagen airport and other places around Denmark in context of the European summit that took place here in September is still under investigation. I think what is important to understand is that we are looking at a still more aggressive Russia, a Russia that is not only waging war in Ukraine, but is also, in our view, waging what we would call hybrid warfare against the West, against the Atlantic Alliance. Russia is at the same time building up its defenses, building up its armed forces, so as to be prepared for a confrontation with the West. It's not that Russia has taken a decision to do so, but is preparing to be able to do so, should Russia so decide.
So we're at the Castellet, which used to be a place that held off invasions from the sea, right? Who does Denmark have to protect itself from now?
Well, I think there are multiple enemies, but the biggest one right now is, without question, Russia. I think, in particular, because Denmark has been very supportive towards Ukraine, but also more in general that Russia is not very satisfied with the European Union and the community we have, and I think that they see us as a danger. And then, of course, NATO is not good for Russia.
There's a whole debate in Denmark, isn't there, about whether the Prime Minister, Mrs. Frederiksen, is being too harsh in her rhetoric about Russia, that this is needlessly inviting attention on Denmark. What do you think about all that?
Well, I think it's rubbish. I mean, we have, as a country, taken a quite tough stand on Russia. We were against aggression when they invaded Ukraine, and I think it's fair to speak out and say it clearly. It's good for Russia if there is an internal debate in Denmark against the Danish support towards Ukraine, but also the Danish way of being taking a stand against Russia. So it helps Russia when we're discussing whether it's good or not.
Let's talk a bit about the drone incursions, because obviously that was a big wake-up call, wasn't it, for Denmark and those thousands of travellers stranded at Copenhagen airport. Do you sense that since then things have really changed in terms of the response to this sort of hybrid threat, perhaps, or not really?
I don't know how much it has changed, but I think ordinary citizens has become more aware that Denmark also is a potential target. But we're not the only country in the EU. Several countries has been faced with, drone attacks circulating around their airports. But it wasn't clear wake-up call for Danes and also for our authorities in order to be aware and to protect us better, especially around our airports.
It's been said in newspaper articles here, editorials, that perhaps Denmark is preparing for the wrong sort of war, that it's still focusing on conventional responses, increasing conscription and so on. Do you share that view? Do you think there hasn't been enough of a mental switch?
I think we need to do everything. We need to have more people joining the Danish army. We need to have more equipment, more technology, but also realizing that modern warfare is not the way the last war was taking place. We also need to be aware of disinformation from countries like Russia, etc. And we also need to prepare ourselves a little bit more mentally that we are not any longer in a real peacetime. We're not in wartime, but we're in something in between.
So no war, no peace. Now, Denmark is considered a country with high media literacy, but that doesn't mean that it's immune to foreign interference and influence campaigns. Charlotte Prudhomme has that story.
Rising geopolitical tensions and the spread of fake news run in parallel in Denmark.
It was a tweet apparently written by our Danish Member of Parliament, Mr. Carsten Hønge. He wrote that exceptional situations also call for exceptional solutions. So in the question of Greenland, in the battle between the US and Denmark, we should ask Russia for help in this situation.
The Danish MP was quick to deny authoring the tweet, but the damage was done. The goal seemingly to sow confusion around Danish political unity about Greenland and so undermine Denmark on the international stage. A typical topic for Check Day, a fact-checking website.
It has to be locked for the security of the journalists here. There are some people who don't like to be fact-checked.
The team monitors social media for fake news using software to hunt keywords like Russia, Trump and propaganda. One recent example of online misinformation, a manipulated interview with the Danish Prime Minister given to the Financial Times.
This was twisted on this Telegram post to that we are out of time, we might as well step back. The Russians have won the war against Ukraine. But what she actually said was something different. She was saying, we have to work quicker. We have to now find more money to support Ukraine. She didn't give up.
Given the spread of misinformation, 43% of Danes say they are worried about fake news, but that's a lower level than other Nordic countries.
We're going to switch gears now to migration, which is, of course, a big issue in the EU and has been during Denmark's EU presidency. Crystal Tolden, so you're from the ruling party here, the Social Democrats. I think people in other parts of Europe are surprised that the Prime Minister is an ally of much more right-wing leaders in Europe and takes quite a hard line on asylum and migration. How would you explain that?
Well, I think we have a long tradition in Denmark that a big part of the Danish parliament is supporting a tough line on migration. And I think it's because it's also a way to protect our welfare society. I mean, if we have too many refugees coming here, there will be a lot of problems with integration and that will cause a lot of problems. And those who will have to pay that price is very often the poor one, those living in residential areas where the refugees come, etc. So it is also a social democratic approach to make sure that we can follow the situation. And with too many, we cannot create a well-functioning integration.
That point was echoed to me by Marie Bjerre from the Liberals, one of the three parties in the coalition government here in Denmark.
We still have problems with immigration in Denmark. It is really hard to integrate people that are from totally different cultures and backgrounds than the Danish background. I used to be a minister of gender equality. We see it in immigration societies where women cannot even choose their own partner, cannot even control their own financial situation. And we have to insist, if you want to live in Denmark, you have to abide by our values, freedom and democracy.
Tell me a bit about this neighborhood. How is it diverse, actually?
Well, it has a large proportion of citizens that live here from non-Western countries, 21%. And this is both people that have migrated themselves and are also children of migrants.
You're a former MEP, so you know how things are at the European level. Do you think that Denmark's asylum policy is objectively more restrictive than in other European countries?
It's much more restrictive, and the rhetorics around the asylum politics is much more harsh and exaggerated. And I think it's because in 2015, the far-right party, Danish People's Party, had a very big electoral success. And that convinced even the Social Democrats that they wanted to adopt their anti-migrant, anti-foreigner policies in order to win back the voters.
Well, Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen has pursued what's known as a zero refugee policy since coming to power in 2019, and her government approved a historically low number of asylum applications last year, 864 people. Our reporter Luke Brand went to meet a few people whose lives are in limbo, who may have to leave the country.
Hej søster. Jeg hedder Jawahar.
My name is Jawahar. I'm 27 years old. I work full-time. I've lived in this country for 10 years now. And the reason we came to Denmark was because of the civil war in Syria when it broke out. It was important that I understood the Danish culture and understood the Danish language so that I felt a part of the society that I live in.
Like most migrants in Denmark, Jawahar and her family only have temporary residence permits, renewable every 2 years.
I can plan my life until 2027. After that, I don't know what will happen.
That's where all the stress comes in. We don't know what the future holds for us.
Denmark's immigration policy has strict language and employment requirements. In 2024, fewer than 1,000 asylum applications were accepted, a 40-year low.
They feel increasingly that they're not welcome. This increasing harsh rhetoric, even from the government, has had a very negative impact on people living here.
Denmark's Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen has used a tough line on immigration as a route to power.
Some voters are going back to the populist parties. Now we're seeing the Social Democrats once again responding by more strict policies. So it's a battle about keeping that strict position, keeping the brand of being strict. That's what have kept them in power, and that's still their strategy. We will see a development across Europe that the Social Democrats, if they want to stay in power, they need to move in that direction.
If you are a politician and you want to restrict the rights of refugees, what does that do to your society as such? Is that really a society that will be sustainable in terms of the democratic development and the rights of all people in your country?
Migrants from non-Western countries represent 6% of the Danish population.
Most Danes find it incompatible to, for instance, have radical Islamism as part of our culture and way of life.
The Danish government has implemented ever tougher measures under pressure from populist parties on the far right.
We feel vindicated that now all the way from the Socialist People's Party in the Danish parliament and to the right, people talk about the necessity of a strict migration policy. The deal when you get in as a refugee is that when it's safe to return, you are expected to do so. The time is right for Syrians to return to their country of origin and to help rebuild that. That must be a logical tendency when you have come as a temporary protected person.
I don't intend to go back to Syria because I've built a future here.
I have Danish friends, good neighbors, who've made me feel welcome in Denmark. I haven't gotten that feeling from politicians, I'd say. Not with the immigration policy that there is here. And it keeps getting worse and worse.
Influenced by the Danish model, in December, EU member states took another step towards tighter rules, including return hubs outside the EU for rejected asylum seekers.
Karen, you wanted to tell me about this poster here. Who is this candidate? What happened to her?
Well, she's a member of the Danish parliament, and her name is Samir Navar, and she's one of the few Muslim politicians in Denmark. Yeah. And there was a right-wing commentator that wrote a big piece in one of the national papers putting in doubt her democratic values and also her loyalty to Denmark because she's Muslim. But what worried me as well was that it was only people from her own political party that came to her defense. It was not a united front of politicians at the national level saying you cannot try and undermine the character of a politician just because of their religion. And there is this sort of hands-off approach to racism and character assassinations because of people's origin in Denmark, because you don't want to be seen as too loose on migration. And that allows for the build-up of a lot of misconceptions.
Misconceptions about crime rates, for example. I think you have some figures.
Yes, there was a recent study saying that up to 27% as an average thought that people of migrant background had a criminal conviction. 27%, that's enormous, when especially the real numbers are 3.5%. So people have been sort of listening to politicians talk about how bad migration is, how bad integration is in Denmark, how much people from outside of Denmark, from non-Western countries, are criminals. And it's been so embedded in our psyche that we've come to believe it.
Let's take a look together at an example of integration through football, shall we?
Yes, let's do that.
We up now, believe it. Know you heard about it, now you can see it. We up now.
I don't know if we're going to have to play football here, do you think?
The club's motto is sort of, it's about being a part of the community. It's not so much about competition.
Tell us about this club. What are you trying to do here?
We were established in 2008, and ever since we've been trying to bring kids together and try to make a society for them, which is nice to be a part of. We have a lot of different people from various places from on Earth.
Kom så, dreng!
I am an immigrant kid from Turkey. My parents immigrated in the 60s, so that makes me kind of second generation. And I've been here my whole life and kind of found a balance in between two cultures. My daughter starts football, as I am a footballer myself, and she loves the community that she's playing football, the cross cultures, and also the fun, but also the whole thing of socializing and progressing into the integration.
I've been doing this for around 2 years now and enjoy it super much. We say it in Denmark, it has to be hyggeligt. No one on this team has to go home crying because it was bad practice. Most importantly, we have to teach our children to respect each other. Respect is something we are not always born with, it's something we learned from childhood. We have to respect each other in order to progress as a land and progress as a culture. Denmark is a land full of cultures.
Well, that's it for part one of this show, but there's more coming up from Denmark on Europe Rendezvous. I've got a tryout here for Norrebro United.
Aye,